time, weather, and
Audio Jungle.
Welcome to Old Fat Marine. I'm going to take a lot of heat for this because I'm probably the only one out here talking about it right now. But I'm going to make the bold statement that all crypto will go to zero.
Shall we play a game?
Crypto will go to zero once the great reset happens in the financial sector. If you have viewed some of the videos presented by this channel, you're also questioning the tactics of the Federal Reserve and the world banks in general. There are many instances in world history that show the government's path has been directed by the world's largest banks. The money that these bankers control is more than just a lot of money. You inherently know that these bankers of the Federal Reserve have a lot of money, but in reality, these bankers have all of the money. The central planners that are guiding so many events now in the world are beyond wealthy, and it has all become about power and control. Crypto will necessarily go to zero because the powers that be will mandate it by law, as crypto goes against everything that gives a government power and authority. This was done in 1933 in the United States of America through a law that made it illegal to own gold for any American citizens.
Executive Order 6102 was a presidential executive order that required Americans to surrender much of their gold to the U.S. government.
The federal government has lost control of the runaway dollar. In America today, it is no longer the government telling the banks what to do. This is because the employees of the banks have woven their way into control of the government. The White House today is nothing more than a revolving door of appointees that are in place merely to advance the objectives of those that are truly pulling the strings. The federal government is essentially nothing more than one big corporation that exists to perpetuate those that control the money supply. It is the bankers that determine where and when U.S. bombs should be dropped. This is how deep the banks control policy and world direction. Crypto will go to zero so the order can be maintained at a higher level, at a world level. Let's look at the history of war. For well over 200 years, the world's banking system was dominated by the infamous Rothschilds, and they were all about power and control. They still hold that power today, and one only has to read the history of the Rothschild dynasty to quickly stumble across instance after instance of their thirst for power. This was essentially the beginning of the modern-day fractional banking system. If you do not know the meaning of fractional reserve banking, you are behind the power curve. A little side tidbit about the Rothschild family is that they have more money than Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk combined. Yet, you never, if ever, hear about them. But they were definitely woven into the early banking history of the world. They wanted political favors for use of the money that they loaned in wartime. These favors easily snowballed into staggering wealth. This type of arrangement is where the Rothschilds' family power originated from, and that power exists to this day. The Rothschilds historically have financed both sides of the wars at the same time for well over 200 years. They held and hold no allegiance to any world government or power. For those that like history, the Rothschilds were a key player in the destruction of Napoleon Bonaparte. It is also now an easily provable fact that the ship, the Lusitania, was sent to its destruction knowingly with the hope that Germany would sink it, all for the financial gain of J.P. Morgan and the World Bank. He had a quote. It said, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I do not care who writes the laws." That is a famous quote that rings true today. In all parts of the world, Crypto will go to zero, and the Rothschild family will be the cause. Because of this thirst for power and control, there is no way this power will be given up by the bankers.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls.
Any cryptocurrency that is in existence would be a direct affront to the sovereignty of any nation. It is only a matter of time before some event causes the enactment of laws that eliminates the competition to the central banking system. A blatantly overlooked fact of the Federal Reserve is that they are a financial banking system monopoly. The same America that prides itself on breaking up monopolies and not allowing monopolies to exist is essentially nothing more than one big world banking monopoly itself. We all speak of a great reset that is on the horizon. What I see is a reset that will be unlike any history has ever witnessed. We think of a financial reset that is coming as a major event, but in the recorded events of history, it is quite common. The difference in the upcoming reset will be the largest of the scale. It necessarily must be simultaneously worldwide. The powers that be will use these upcoming events to consolidate their power, and in this process, they will issue a new world currency. In short, the fiat currency we currently call the US dollar has to die in its current form. America will somehow void out the national debt by decree, and the World Bank will step in to save the day. When they step in, they will be the recipients of the largest transfer of wealth in human history. With their SDR currency already being in existence, they will merely reboot the world economy. America will go from a nation with a fiat paper currency to a nation with a fiat digital currency. Bitcoin and any crypto will be a direct threat and therefore must not be allowed to exist after the transition.
Margin call, gentlemen. Well, you can't expect us to...
You know the rules of the exchange, Mr. Duke. All accounts to be settled at the end of the day's trading.
As I close this video out, I want to invite you to look at Executive Order 13818, written under the Trump administration.
Yeah, this was issued December 21st, 2017. The title is Executive Order Blocking the Property of Persons Involved in Serious Human Rights Abuse or Corruption. And I would say that, considering the Ghislaine trial this week and Epstein, I would say that group, that island, fits in this category. But this is an executive order people need to read. If you're in the crypto markets, particularly Bitcoin, you really need to read this. This has got a lot of teeth in it. I would describe this as a few razor blades taped onto the end of a nuclear weapon.
With all that is going on in the world, it is very relevant to note when it's placed against the backdrop of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. You know, Epstein's Island. Whatever side wins this upcoming and epic financial battle, the events are being unspun. For the bankers to seize control of the world, the monetary system needs to be seized. That seizure is already rolling out, as demonstrated by the collapse of numerous national currencies that are happening throughout the world as you are listening to this. They just don't talk about it on mainstream news. The seizure of all money in cryptos is inevitable, so the powers that be remain the powers that be. Crypto is a threat to their existence and the total dominant control they seek. Cryptos will go to zero because the powers that currently control the bank want to maintain that control. One day people will wake up and the access to their crypto money will be denied. You will have no recourse and nobody but you will care. Crypto will go to zero because the powers that be will not allow its existence, and all that money, quote unquote money, will be seized under some flag, and that will be that. Crypto will go to zero as the United States of America shifts from a fiat paper currency to a fiat digital currency. And when that shift happens, all the debt will be erased and the financial fiat charade begins anew. The death of crypto to become worthless will be a side note, just like the 1,197 human beings that lost their lives on the sinking of the Lusitania when Winston Churchill himself set up and allowed the sinking to happen. Crypto will go to zero as the United States of America institutes its own digital currency. After all, the current bankers just want to grow and expand their power and control, and crypto is merely a side note in history that is currently in the way.
Time, weather, and
Audio Jungle.
case.